retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring to their knees. Take the thing to see. Just like a wind spread into the streets. Time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want
Welcome everybody to the After Hours Radio Show, the new After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be a fantastic show here tonight. We are going to have Josh Rutledge coming to join us here tonight to get this thing kicked back off, the re-inauguration of the show, as it were, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation as we always do. We always do. It's just history shows. If you've ever gone back and watched shows, you'll see that that's exactly what we do, and we're going to continue to do that right here on the After Hours Radio Show. So I do appreciate you guys coming on in, and let's go ahead and see who has come on in. We got Kitty Catty Whack out there. I do see Kitty Catty Whack. We got JSCO 773. Okay, JSCO, thanks for coming on in. Lex Diaz is in the building talking about, yo, Mr. Rob G. Yo, right back to you. Appreciate you coming on in. Also, Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Appreciate you coming on in. Bim Jim is in the building. We do appreciate you coming on in as well. And yeah, Kitty Catty Whack is awesome. Awesome stuff, as always, from Kitty Catty Whack. So we appreciate it coming on in, and everybody did a trickle on in. Just tell a friend, let everybody know that the After Hours Radio Show is back right here on Social Talk Radio, the home of truth, transparency, and other things related to humanity. And you're going to see a lot of great shows coming up here, coming in the future. We got a great lineup on the way. Some oldies but goodies, but the conversation are those that move the needle, as we always do. So just excited to get back in here and get things going on. It has been a long time coming. As we're dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff behind the scenes, we do have the Friday night call-in show on this channel, as well as the Definitive UFO News show. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, the like button. We'd appreciate you guys coming on in to hang out and just have some fun, have some great conversation, and partake in some awesome interviews right here on this channel. Let's go ahead and get the podcast side started, as we will be sending these over to Spreaker, guys. So welcome to the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are going to have a fantastic show here. We got Josh Rutledge in the building joining us tonight as we get this thing kicked off. And you guys get ready to go. This is how we're going to do it. Let's get ready to go. Okay, wait, we got about 20 seconds left. Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off right. First show back right here on the channel, Social Dig, along as well with the other shows. Hey, Christine, thanks for coming on in. I see you out there. We're going to get started here in about 10 seconds, guys. So let's go. Lex Diaz. Are they trolling us with this wannabe disclosure? I think so. Well, we'll talk about that. Let's get ready to go. Greetings, social family. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Social Talk Radio, where truth and transparency matters the most. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting live from the West Coast of the United States, right here in sunny Southern California, over those airwaves and to all those on digital platforms all around the world. Remember, if you ever miss a show, you can dig deep in our archives, which don't cost a dime. Just jump on over to the youtube.com website, but don't stop there. Also consider giving us a follow. X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of them at Mr. Rob G. And yes, we will forever appreciate your support. Go ahead and get your popcorn, grab a beverage of your choice, as we have another conversation that moves the needle. That's right, we got a fantastic show lined up for you here tonight. We've got Josh Rutledge stepping in the building, joining us as on our kickoff show, our inaugural re-show. So make sure you stay tuned right here on this channel. As we go ahead and get ready to hop right on into the conversation, we're going to bring our guy, always a great conversation with this dude here, Mr. Josh Rutledge. Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Rob. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to see that the show is back. You always have some of the most amazing guests and some of the best conversations. I'm really looking forward to, kind of what this new season of After Hours is going to be.
Man, that totally appreciate it, man. Awesome stuff. Do I have a round of applause? That's awesome stuff from Josh Rutledge right there. And as well, I could have thought it kicked it off with the better person, man, because Josh, as everyone knows, and you see it out there, they love you and they love your perspective on this conversation. And I have to have guys like you on here to even make it matter, right? It's got to be a conversation where you leave out of here with more than you came in with. And that is the motto and what we're going to do here. So appreciate that from you. And we're going to go ahead and kind of get into the... let's let everybody know, since this is kind of the rebirth of the show, who you are, what you do, and what led you to getting into even having these conversations.
Yeah. So as of like 6 weeks ago, I'm now the chief investigator for MUFON in the state of Arizona. I've been a field investigator for MUFON, the hat, for a little over 2 years. I'm on the MUFON ERT, which stands for the Experiencer Resource Team. I was a part of the CAG team for a little bit where I was working cases in other states. So just generally, I've been an investigator for MUFON for, let's say, the last 2.5 years. But I've been interested in the topic, deeply interested in the topic for probably the last 7 years. Ever since I had an experience in August of 2019, and then I started doing a podcast with a friend on this topic. And then, a series of experiences after that. And every time I had an experience, I approached it with my investigator, kind of hat on, even though I wasn't a MUFON investigator yet. I always wanted to see if I could rule out, prosaic things for these experiences that I was having. And sometimes I did. Like, I filmed this amazing light flying over my house, and I looked it up, and it was the International Space Station. So I got no shame in putting something up on YouTube and saying, hey, I filmed this, thought it was a UFO. It was an International Space Station, because we should all strive to educate ourselves on what is actually in our skies, all the time. So that's been, I've also on the, let's say the consciousness side of the topic. I've been doing stuff on that side, like channeling, using dowsing rods to connect and talk with entities and things like that. Always trying to go into those things with a sense of skepticism, whatever they provide. I don't just take it and run with it. I don't make predictions and things like that, because there's really no way of verifying the information that I'm being given. And if I make a prediction of, something and it doesn't come true, it hurts my credibility. So, but generally just, I'm a podcaster, I'm an investigator, I'm an enthusiast. And I'm just really enjoying getting to talk to people about the topic and subsequent topics, ghosts and cryptids and the whole kit and caboodle. And, express my thoughts and theories, but also hear other people's thoughts and theories. And that's how we grow as a community. So, yeah.
That is awesome stuff. Congratulations as well. I know I saw you on something not too long ago where you did announce you becoming chief investigator at this point.
Yep.
Okay.
Chief
awesome.
investigator for the state of Arizona.
Awesome. That, it couldn't happen to a better person, man, because I know you're very analytical. And as you just said a moment ago, you like to process information. You like to put things on the board. Let's look at it and potentially let's discount it and get it out of the way. And that's always a good practice. And it's a good way to kind of teach those out there who are kind of just coming into this. You don't really know what to do with the data or the information. Some people jump head first and they take it all and say, no, this is this is all authentic without taking that important step of stepping back and saying, hey, let's let other eyes look at this. Let's vet it. Maybe we all come to the same conclusion, but maybe we determine, and I'm then shown that, hey, maybe this wasn't what I thought, and kind of let's get it out the way. So that's awesome stuff. And I actually want to go back a little bit because this takes me to another piece here, as far as the way it seems this community is growing. And I mean, from people who would not have normally said things before. I happen to be out in the Bay Area. I'm in close to LA now, so about 400 miles. I just got back from the trip, and I was speaking to my auntie, and she, we never really touched this subject, but she found out that I was doing these shows. And then so she opened up to me and told me about something, an experience she had 20 years ago. I've talked to her a million times, and this is the first time that I hear her say this. And I really feel like it's because the climate has changed. But she said she was in a hot tub with my uncle, with my niece, with my cousin, and they had all the lights out on the patio, clear open sky, San Jose, California. And she saw this light going across the sky. She said it went miles in a few seconds. She described all of the elements and observables, I guess, that we applied to the phenomena, and she described pretty much everything you could think of. Right angle turn. She said it wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't a plane. It kind of went across the sky, then it stopped, and it came back, and then it kind of went up and went down. And I'm like, little do you know, you're explaining the phenomenon, and it's always good to get someone to be able to open up like that, because again, then they validate what we historically know about the presence, and it's another one you could tack onto the board. So I think that's pretty awesome that people are feeling the need to come out or being open enough to say it. Because this is 20 years ago. I've seen her a million times. Never has she said this or brought this up.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. For a long time, I was really weary about how public I wanted to be with my involvement in the topic, simply because I was worried about potential blowback at work. Right? I'm a consultant as my professional career, and it's sometimes I was worried that clients wouldn't want to have me on a project or something because I investigate UFOs. But what's really I think quite telling of the times that we live in is that I have been bold and shared with coworkers and clients, once I got in working on the project, that I do this. And that always leads to somebody pinging me on the side and saying, hey, I got to tell you about this thing that I had happened to me at my friend's barbecue last weekend. Or, I'm pretty sure I live in a haunted house, and what would you say that I could do to try to, investigate it myself? And so it's just really, it really shows, I think, that probably a vast majority of people are having experiences that they can't explain. And they're just looking for the opportunity to tell somebody about it.
I can agree with that. And I was going to ask you, and you kind of pretty much laid it out perfectly there. The conversation being had, right? This initially, as you said, you don't want people to laugh at you, even though you're coming from a place where it's the experience is completely real, but it's so easy for people to put the stigma on you and affect you negatively when it comes to your workplace. So I was going to ask, and do you think even broader that the conversation is being more acceptable on the bigger stages? I'm seeing a lot of newscasters that seem to be actually taking the story seriously and really asking those tough questions. Are you noticing that, or what are you seeing on the larger stage?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it was pretty telling for me. I think it was like 2020 or something. Somebody like a relatively big, it was a local news station, but it was, relatively big city, maybe LA or something. But they did a story covering something that happened in the topic. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the point that I took away from everything is when they did the story, they didn't play the X-Files theme, which that has always kind of accompanied this kind of stuff. Whenever news stations, especially local news stations, would cover it, they'd always play the X-Files theme as like some sort of a jab at the people that are actually experiencing this stuff. And like I said, that time in 2020 when that news station didn't play it, and then subsequent reports and things later, I have seen less and less mocking by the media on covering stories related to this topic. And I think, again, that goes to kind of a litmus test of where we are in the community and again, broader social community as a whole. That, we're, it's not quite, I don't think it's quite to the point where it's not taboo still, but I think we're getting closer to the point of being there. I think we're probably at the point where UFOs are no longer taboo, but other parts or subparts of the culture probably still are, like abduction phenomena or channeling or things like that, things that really get into the more esoteric or spiritual side of the phenomena. Those things are still a little, touchy for certain people, and they're not willing to share them openly. But aside from that, just with UFOs, things in the sky, I think there's been enough coverage and enough activity, and especially activity endorsed or supported by actions within the U.S. government and other governments around the world, that at least for UFOs and UAP, it's no longer a taboo topic.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been kind of more surprised myself because I know everyone out there probably had this feeling before where, you talk about this so much and it's so exciting to talk about. And as far as, because you really want to be analytical with it and really go through the paces to try to determine or figure what might be the answer to a particular part of the phenomena, and you get a lot of eye rolling from, well, at least you used to, from close family members who kind of will listen to you maybe for the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then they're tuned out and they're ready to talk about something else and move on. I approach a lot of people, especially people I haven't seen for a while, and I'll say, hey, you heard heard UFOs are real. Are you hearing the conversation on this? And like, what do you think? And I've been surprised by a lot of people, more people than I would have thought, with the first thing out of their mouth is, oh yeah, definitely UFOs definitely have to be real, and then they'll break down the reasons, even if they don't have an experience themselves. So, with that being said, as you just said, UFO being that the icebreaker for the conversation, we can get everybody to agree almost at this point unilaterally that there are UFOs. Okay, so the natural next part of that conversation is now, okay, well, what's in the UFOs? Okay, or what's controlling the UFOs? So now it's time to talk about who's controlling it. Is it government? No, I don't think so. Is it adversarial? I don't think so. Or is it extraterrestrial? Where do you see that conversation going now that we have Donald Trump, the current president, stepping in saying he wants to release UFO files and he's all in on disclosure? Do you feel that the confirmation of the alien presence is going to be brought by any one of these outlets anytime soon?
So, I'll say, and sometimes people get a little frustrated with me when I say it this way, but the government is only going to release information which the government can benefit from the release of that information, right? And what I mean by that is, there's no perception or perceived benefit for the government to say we have alien bodies. What would be the benefit of making that statement, other than potentially, it would provide confirmation for those in the community who suspect or believe that the government has those things. But outside of that, there's really no strong benefit from the government to be able to make that statement. So I think unless a condition arises where the government would benefit from making statements like that or related to that, I don't see us receiving any of that type of information. You know, the 161 files that dropped yesterday morning, there's some stuff in there from 47. There's some stuff in there from, you know, in the 50s. What's not in there? There's nothing in there about Roswell. There's nothing in there about the DC event that happened in 52. So there's still like it's like they said, okay, we'll give you all the stuff we got about 47, but all the things that people really want to see about 47, like, you know, anything around Kenneth Arnold or the Phoenix, Arizona sighting that, you know, predates Roswell or the Roswell crash. None of that information is there. Will we ever see it? Maybe. But again, I would say that, does it benefit the government to release that information, or does it potentially create more headache? Because then they will have come clean on a long-standing conspiracy theory, and in doing so, they might fuel other conspiracy theories, right? So that's I don't know if we're actually going to see great information. I think that there's stuff there. Like I love the Apollo 11 transcript from mission brief that talks about the thing that they saw. You know, I love the Apollo 12 photos, which I think the Apollo 12 photos goes a long way towards telling, you know, like dismissing the claim that we never went to the moon, because and like the photo that's in my background right now is one of those Apollo 12 photos. So all of this stuff was in a photograph that was taken of the lunar surface, like off in the distance. If Kubrick, let's say, was involved in faking the moon landing, why would he have gone through all of the effort to try to put fake UFOs into a photo of the lunar surface? So I think, you know, stuff like this goes a long way towards kind of proving, I hope for many, that we did go to the moon. So I think there's going to be some great information that's going to come out of the files, but I think it's all just the same type of information that has either been leaked over the years or is currently available on blackvault.com or, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything that's going to be just all earth shattering. Oh my goodness, this is the smoking gun. They buried it in this file. Like I don't see any of that being in what's released. This is by releasing these files, they can show, or rather they can play at transparency without actually being transparent in the areas that we want them to be transparent in.
Agreed. And the whole, another conspiracy coming from this. And here's the thing, and I totally agree with you on that, because obviously we have other examples of files that have been released when we know all of them haven't been released, and we know the only ones that have been released have been done in a way to shape a particular narrative. So what's to say, very likely, that this release would do the same thing. But and with that, I think it could, you know, come with the conspiracy of, oh, they didn't release everything. There's obviously more, and we're going to base that off of previous releases of other files. But here's one thing I do like about it. There's always a silver lining for me in this stuff. A lot of it is what you pointed to with the moon information. So, okay, we have some things that can corroborate, validate that likely we definitely went to the moon. So that as far as like mental capacity, it kind of we're able to kind of take that away and use that for something else. And I think as well with the astronaut audio, which we're going to listen to a little later in the show here, I think that for us can corroborate the fact that these astronauts are seeing things when they go out there. And so we're going to get into that. I kind of want to save that for the second part here. Okay. But, you know, I do think we're in a moment where unwittingly, I think they don't, I'm in a situation where I feel like they don't actually have to release everything, in order for them to release enough to validate enough that's already out there to kind of bring it home. So it's like, okay, you thought you were controlling the narrative, but the information that you released has actually filled in holes for these other things that we can now almost say with 100% is that factual went from 80% to now 99.9% on those things. And now when you present those things with the new data to skeptics or newcomers into the conversation, it's almost a slam dunk for those particular instances, if you know what I'm saying. We got about a minute left till break. If you want to add something to that.
I think it's really important for me. I don't know why, but for me, is to call out that the 161 files that dropped yesterday, for me, do not constitute disclosure in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, a lot of the information is similar to stuff we've received other times. But is it the first trickle in what will soon become a waterfall of information? I'd like to think so, but past experiences and things that even that I haven't lived through, but others have, just probably paint the picture for me that it's probably not going to be what we hope it is.
Yeah, I don't think that it ever will be. I'm going to take some time though, because I know this just came out. All this information came out. Is at 161,000 items or something. Okay,
161.
So that's a lot. That's a lot to sift through. So there's going to be some things I would hope that comes up within the next few days. I want to sit down and take some time to kind of connect some dots on some things because I do feel like out of all that, same thing with the other files, Epstein files. They thought they were releasing things that were really important, but they ended up validating a few things, right? At least one or two or three things they ended up validating, and probably not intentionally. And I think the same thing's going to happen here, but we'll have to wait and see as we go ahead and dig through these files. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the night right here on the re-inauguration show of the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And we will be back with our guest, Josh Rutledge. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you right after the break. Good to go. Got about 5 minutes here. Yeah, Josh, so man, appreciate you coming in, and it's been cool to see you, man, and been watching your arc, man, and a lot of things you've been talking about lately. So really appreciate you coming in to have this conversation, and hopefully a lot more. Hopefully a lot more.
Yeah. I'd like to, you're always a good conversationalist. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate it, man.
And if you ever want to talk anything other than UFOs, I'm down for that too.
Okay.
I'm not pigeonholed into UFO stuff. We can talk ghosts. We can talk the economy. I don't care. I talk it all.
Good. Because, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I talk about this all the time. This is a social dig. This is a social channel as far as humanity goes. So there are a lot of different things we talk about. I actually posted a video about the guy who stood up on top of the bridge in D.C. the other day. I don't know if he's come down by now, but just human beings that care about human beings. And when you think about the world and you think about the conflict we have in the world, it's all at the government level. It's government versus government. It's never citizens versus citizens, right? They usually feel the same way we feel, and then vice versa when it comes to these sort of things. So to kind of make that the highlight and say, hey, we love other humans. We love other people. I think it's a real strong message, and it's really the one we should go with. And that's why disclosure ends up being so important, because we're in a moment where we could potentially shift all that stuff, depending on how we move forward, post disclosure. We could kind of change that whole dynamic and make it a peaceful planet potentially.
Yeah.
Blow up these government structures. Theoretically, not really blow up the government structure, but just kind of making sure that a person, if you're going to step into a position of power, or we rebuild a Congress, for instance, the prerequisite should be: do you care about humans? Do you care about humans? That should be number one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that I think that ultimately it probably boils down to greed, because there are some representatives, I think, that took office and would have answered yes to the "I care about humans" thing, right? And then even now they probably would answer yes, but they are making decisions that are contrary to that statement. And so I think ultimately, the fact that we have Congress people in the U.S. that have to raise millions and millions of dollars to run campaigns to seek reelection, it puts them in a predicament where they have to do things to, get people to want to donate to them. And the vast majority of their big donors are corporations. So of course they're going to do things that help the corporation. So it's, if I were to say, like, I don't know, this may not be the solid answer, but like term limits, so that they don't need to worry about raising money to seek reelection, because maybe they're 1 or 2 terms and then they're out. And so that way they're not beholden to the corporations to raise money for the next time they have to run for reelection.
Exactly. I'm with you there. And I think you can hear my puppies in the back here. I think I got about a minute. Give me a quick second. Let me make sure they're not yapping it up. I'll be right back.
Yep.
All right, puppies good. We're ready to go. 30 seconds here. All right. All right, everybody, welcome back to the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are back in the building here with Josh Rutledge talking UFOs, the story so far, disclosure incoming. 2026 might be a big year. A lot of stuff has been happening. A lot of stuff I didn't think was going to happen. We're going to talk about that, where we think this might go, along with a lot of other stuff. So make sure you stay tuned, stay right here. The home of truth and transparency on Social Talk Radio, as we are back here. So, yeah, before the break here, we're talking about, as far as the government and their part in this, and the information release, and obviously nothing burger release for a lot of people who were thinking that they were going to get the whole shebang. It was never going to happen that way. But then I did point out that there's some things in there I think that'll be valuable to shoring up part of the conversation that was 75% provable, 80% provable. I think it bumps that number up now in a few of these situations. So we'll see what we get out of that. But moving on, because I haven't talked to you in a while. There were the scientists, right? The missing scientists. A lot of people are linking them together as far as, potentially are related to their participation in a UFO program or just being in close proximity to something that had to do with reverse engineering. When you looked at that list, or let's start when the first person, General Neil McCaslin, when they said he got up and just left his keys and kind of disappeared. Did you connect that to anything? Did you think anything of that? And then how about when they started adding names to the list?
I did not, and I still don't. I think that we're honestly, I think as of right now, based on the information available, this is a little bit of confirmation bias. We started looking for the same types of puzzle pieces, and we found them. I did a little bit of research onto this last weekend, actually, and there not to be cavalier with the statement, but there are people who die every day, like probably every hour, and there's a strong chance that those people are going to have a shared occupational interest, like mechanics or HVAC employees or whatever. Like we're not looking to see, well, oh my goodness, Rob, 39 mechanics have died, so far this year. And these are numbers, I'm just making this up, but 39 mechanics have died this year. And 3 of them were in the C-suite for General Motors back in the 80s. Like we're not making that distinction there. We're not drawing the conclusion that there must be some conspiracy around the automotive industry that these things are happening to these mechanics. So I think it's too early to simply say all of these deaths or disappearances are somehow related. That there's not enough. I have not seen enough supporting evidence to support that. It's odd that somebody like General McKesson would just walk out of his house and disappear. But we also don't know, much about his medical, situation. Did he retire on his own? Was he forced out due to medical reason? Like we have no information around his medical state. We know his wife said that it's uncharacteristic for him to do that. But, again, is that just a wife defending her husband as opposed to sound, evidence to support that claim? So for me, as an evidence-based individual right now, there's not a lot of evidence that says that these 11 people are related in somehow other than they shared a similar professional interest.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. We actually did a show about this a few weeks back on a Friday night call-in show. It kind of went through each of the individuals, what their role was, how they disappeared or passed away. And yeah, my conclusion was essentially the same, that this list, I don't see any connections to this. At first, when I heard General Neil McCaslin go missing, I didn't connect that to UFOs. I don't know how someone would instantly do that, even though he did have the background. But I can say this, as someone came on the show, I think it was Paramore, came on the show, and he showed a document where, showing why they put the list together and why the particular names were there. And there were some interconnecting things. It was like, okay, they all worked. There were 3 facilities essentially that connected this group of people. It's like, okay, so there was enough there initially to say, okay, let's look at these people. But I think one thing that should have happened is maybe the list should have been built behind the scenes and not in the public eye, because all they're going to do with the list is they're going to dwindle it back down to maybe, a handful that are really unexplainable and suspicious. And I think there are a few there where you really have to look at, like, okay, how did this happen? Now, this one particular person, I think it was Monica Riza, where
Mm-hmm.
she was hiking with her friends and she was just kind of behind them a little bit, and then she just disappears into thin air. They go back and they search for her and they look for her. Essentially, you're gonna have to look at that as maybe foul play. Okay, you guys hit her somewhere and you know where she's at, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming the police went through that, determined they had nothing to do with it. So, how do you disappear from a group of people? And
I
then,
mean,
and yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's the that right there is the basis of all of David Paulides missing 401 stuff, right?
Exactly.
His documentaries are full of people who are camping together, and one person goes to get something else out of the van, and they never come back, and then they look for them, and they're like just completely gone. I mean, it's I'm not saying that it's not foul play, but I'm saying that at least in our world, and the missing 401 stuff, this is a common occurrence for people who go hiking, out in the wilderness. Um, so, if her disappearance was while she was hiking, who knows? I mean, maybe she walked through a portal, didn't realize it, and then couldn't get back to her group. And yes, there are probably prosaic explanations for this, but in our world, there's also very much just weird things that happen that we haven't figured out an explanation for yet.
One thing that rang for me and allowed me to start going down a thought path with this information was the element of potential espionage taking place here, where you have individuals from entities from other adversarial nations who are here, who are the ones that are capturing these people and maybe and doing Lord knows what. Maybe they're taking them, smuggling them across the Mexico border, and then getting them out of there to back to the home country. The same way we took the scientists out of Germany in World War II and brought them here to build the nuclear bomb, right? And so maybe I'm like, okay, well, I can see an angle where if the because here this is the only reason why I would even go down that thought process is they're saying, okay, you had Obama come out and talk about essentially verify aliens are real. Then you had Trump kind of reaffirm that by the statements he made, talking about breaking confidential information, and then agreeing to say, I'm going to release files. So if you're an adversarial nation who also has a program and you're not ready for that information to come out, or you think based on the statements that the United States may know more than you know, then does that activate a sleeper cell of individuals who are already here to go target specific people in order to maybe get some of the information that they attained from their work on, and that's just the only connection I could see. It
Yeah.
doesn't really work when you think about the people who disappeared years ago. It doesn't really line up for them. But I'm just thinking, even if we were to go back and find a trigger years ago, and it could have been Lou Elizondo coming out or some other element of UFO disclosure that maybe activates something like this. And we know we've done it to other nations, and we know that we target scientists all the time, and so we know this could be plausible. Had you ever thought through that? Because when that came up, that was the only thing that made me think that
Yeah. I mean,
maybe something else could be going on.
I'll say that I entertained it as a possibility, but for me right now, there are too many what ifs. If this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing like there's just it's a theory for me that is built on a house of cards, and there's
Mm-hmm.
no real evidence to support anything. I mean, take McKesson for example. McKesson had a long career in the military. He didn't only do UFO stuff. He didn't only do, or he wasn't only at Wright Patterson. He wasn't only part of this thing. He had a long career, and probably was a part of many different programs that we have no understanding, knowledge, or privy to information on. So I think as us in the UFO community, we heard person associated with Wright Patterson, we jumped to, oh, must be UFO related or clean energy related or whatever the case may be. But, you know, these people have lives just like all of us. And I bet, Rob, I bet you don't just sit around all the time and only think about UFOs. I bet you're also interested in other stuff, music, you're a gamer, whatever the case may be. So, you know, the idea that they were targeted simply because of their potential involvement in the things that our community is interested in is rather narrow-sighted for us to think about, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. I just know that over time, and obviously this is another one of those time will tell scenarios where I think initially what they did was they overflooded the pot, and I think they shouldn't have done that in the public eye. They should have kind of did that behind the scenes, sifted through that list, and then really saw which ones could interconnect. Because I think if they dumb that list down a little bit, and then they come with maybe 4 solid individuals that are really mysterious, and then that's what's presented to the public, then I think this could be looked at in a different way. And I think the important thing is, and why I'm not mad that they kind of threw all these people who probably weren't connected, like they even threw David Wilcox in there, who RIP just essentially unalived himself recently. And we watched the video on him, and I just immediately felt and knew that he had nothing, that he was not connected in any way. However, they still threw him on the list. But I think it's responsible to maybe put people on a list, but then it's also equally responsible, even more important, to make sure you eliminate those as you can, and not just leave it and say, hey, 13 scientists are mysteriously missing, and let that be the story, when really we could already, if that's the story that's presented, and we can immediately discount or disprove 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, then what validity or what you know, how does your list stand up in the public eye? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How do you walk away from that?
Yeah, and I think it's also a matter of sensationalist media, right? It's a lot sexier to say 13 missing scientists all associated with the nuclear program than it is to say 13 missing people. Some of them were scientists associated with the nuclear. Like it's a completely different headline. And at the end of the day, you know, most media is out there to sell advertising, and or rather to sell advertising and to get people to click on those ads or go to those people's websites or consume whatever their ad is for. And what is going to get you that is sensationalist type headlines. That coupled with the fact that, you know, our general approach to reporting on stories and things has taken a significant drop in credibility and the amount of, you know, fact checking that is done before a story is just thrown up on you know, a news organization's website or, you know, regurgitated by local news. You know, how many news articles, if you were to go look, how many news articles are on CNN, Fox News, whatever the case may be, that are a news article written around a tweet or written around a truth or whatever the case may be, even if that truth is not the president. Like, you know, we've gotten rather lazy, I think, in how we approach the responsibility of the news and what is supposed to go into the research and investigation of a story before it is presented as the news. A lot of people who still watch the news or consume the news on YouTube or whatever the case may be, however you get it, there's an expectation that when you're watching a news story, it has gone through some level of scrutiny to determine if it's factually relevant.
What do you think about Amy Eskridge being a part of that list, right? Because even before this list was put together, a lot of people looked at Amy Eskridge and what happened to her as very mysterious, and I think that's kind of where this builds off of, is that whole thing. So I want to know what you think about that and her case in particular, and then also, uh, if you could pick on this list currently, if you've gone through each one of these individuals, which ones would you say are at least worth looking more into?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not in depth aware of all of the cases. I'll say that. I am aware of generally if it was an unalive or if it was a disappearance. And if it was an unalive, I'm familiar with, how they were unalived and etc. The only thing that I've really seen that has a potential is there was an individual, and it might be Amy. I can't remember. There's also another woman who went, I think, missing, who was like a part of a corporation that she had worked with McKesson at some point, in her career. Yeah. And so, those individuals, like in my mind, the only individuals who have potential ties are McKesson and this other woman who I can't think of her name. Like that might be a string worth pulling at. But even that, again, thinking about how long McKesson was in his career, how many people he probably had reporting under him. Did she work with him was she in the same office as him? Or was she just a contractor that was underneath one of the programs that he was overseeing? So, again, I think it's just a matter of there's a lot of information. There's a lot of ambiguity to the potential connections between these people. And I think the only reason why a lot of people are giving any of the people on this list a look outside of course, the police or whoever's investigating it is because they've been lumped together on this list.
I'll read three because I think I found the one that the missing person that was linked to McCaslin, and I think it's Monica Reza, the lady we're talking about who was missing. So she was let's see here. Let me get her information up here. So she was aerospace metallurgical engineer and material scientist working as the JPL director of material processing group, previously as a technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne, co-inventor patent holder for Mondaloy, a specialized nickel-based superalloy for high-performance rocket engines and burn-resistant materials, had professional ties to Air Force Research Laboratories. She disappeared June 22nd of 2025 while hiking in the Angeles National Forest, last seen 30 feet behind a companion, smiling and waving. Her connection was advanced materials for aerospace rockets relevant to propulsion tech, prior collaboration with McCaslin's Air Force Lab. Some theorists link superalloys or exotic materials to alleged UFO reverse engineering. For those out there who may not know about McCaslin, retired U.S. Air Force Major General, former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, long rumored in UFO lore for Roswell debris, oversaw classified aerospace space weapons program, had ties to Los Alamos, brief post-retirement association with UFO UAP advocacy groups, and then Amy Eskridge, who has been talked about a lot over the last few years. She's the co-founder of the Institute for Exotic Science in Huntsville, Alabama. Focus on experimental propulsion, plasma physics, anti-gravity, electrogravitics concepts, and exotic materials. She collaborated with her father, a NASA-linked plasma fusion engineer, and gave presentations on anti-gravity prototypes. Some reports link her work to advanced aerospace ideas overlapping with UFO propulsion theories. She passed away by self-inflicted gunshot wound on June 11, 2022 in Huntsville, which was ruled personal unaliving by authorities. She claimed harassment, threats, and sabotage after, quote, discovering anti-gravity, stating in interviews that her life, quote, went to blank and people sabotaged her work. She discussed plans to disclose related tech and alleged involvement of private contractors or directed energy issues. Family and father have rejected conspiracy claims, noting personal struggles. Some online texts from her expressed fear, but no direct proof of someone unaliving her. Police investigated, no foul play found, added later to the lists as the 11th actually on this list due to her anti-gravity UFO adjacent research. You know, the thing that even makes, I think, the beginning of this even plausible is just the fact that we have these whistleblowers who come out and are currently being threatened in the public eye. And then you have to think, and we talked about this on the other show, if these whistleblowers weren't, in the spotlight at some point here, so I think that gives them some level of protection, or at least all eyes on this person. So it'd be kind of hard to make a whistleblower just disappear, even though they're still getting the same types of threats from the inside. And then it's just like, okay, when you look at what they're being threatened with, and then you're looking at other individuals who are inside and working or connected to programs disappearing under the same type of circumstances that these whistleblowers are being threatened with, then there's a plausibility there, I think, where you could look at, even it sounds far-fetched, but I think some of it could be connected. That's why I'd be interested to see where this goes. I think at the end of the day, there may be a base list of probably 1, 2, or 3 maybe individuals that are really like, okay, these people were actually, their fates were at the hands of X, Y, or Z. I think we might find that out down the line. And I wouldn't be shocked. We got about 15 seconds. Anything you want to add to that for a break?
Yeah, just to say that I still think it's a stretch to say that somehow their disappearances or unalivings are related to the UFO topic.
Definitely. With that being said, we are going into the top of the hour break here. Awesome conversation so far with Josh Rutledge. We're going to be talking about some other things. Artemis 2, we're going to be talking about some of the files that were released in this first dump. Some, I think, nuggets there. We'll be talking about that a lot more when we come back right after the break. Make sure you come back for the re-inauguration of the After Hours Radio Show. See you back after the break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to the After Hours Radio Show with Mr. Rob G. Where truth and transparency matter the most.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Only on Social Talk Radio.
All right. We are crystal clear, and we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. See you in a minute.
Okay.
right, everybody. Welcome back to hour number 2 on the After Hours Radio Show right here on Social Talk Radio, home of truth and transparency, where truth and transparency matter the most. We're going to be getting back to the show here in about 20 seconds here, guys. So get ready. If you have any questions, that'd be awesome. We'll do those on the back half of the hour, and then I'll close the show out with That's Crazy, what wild news from around the world. We're going to go ahead and get back to the show here in about 5 seconds. Guys, let's go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are back in the building right here with Josh Rutledge. He's the chief investigator over at MUFON, Arizona, doing some awesome stuff, talking UFOs, the story so far. 2026 has been a good one. We still got over half of the year to go, and who knows what's going to happen. We're going to talk about some of the things we think might be coming up and more. Make sure you stay right here, right now, as we get back into this here. Josh, so yes, 2026, some other things that have come up. Artemis 2, they went back to the moon. So we went back to the moon. So for you, prior to Artemis 2, what were your thoughts about the moon landing? Did you fall on either side? And what has Artemis 2 done for you as far as how you look at this going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I loved when we announced we were going back to the moon. I was concerned it was going to get cut, like the whole program was going to get cut, simply because we're not really like in a race back to the moon, like we were in a race to get into space and a race to get to the moon the first time around. I loved it because for both me and my kids, this would be the first moon landing of my lifetime. They was born in 78. So, we had already stopped going at that point. I was talking to my kids about, we watched the launch, we watched, it's historical, in my opinion. And what is even of more historic value, I would say, even than the trip we just made around the moon, is the fact that we live streamed our trip around the moon. I mean, think about how far we've come from a technology perspective. When we first went to the moon, and I'm not even going to entertain the idea that we didn't go. When we first went to the moon, Mission Control got all the tapes. They made a master recording, and then they would release that after the fact to the media, right? Now you could say that they scrubbed it or whatever, I don't know, but regardless, that was the mechanism for how the media got, any video or any audio from the first moon missions. We just, you could go to YouTube now and tune into NASA's YouTube channel and see a live stream from a camera on the flipping space capsule, right? There were live streams of, conversations between media and the astronauts. I mean, that's awesome that we've made that much advancement in technology that we can do that. I mean, think about this. When we actually do go to the moon, there will likely be a camera live streaming the lunar surface 24/7. Now, will they cut it when a UFO flies by? Probably, just like they do for the International Space Station. But still, think about how much advancement we've made in technology that will likely be the case.
Okay, devil's advocate here, right? Because and maybe not, maybe just plausible thinking. Going on the idea that we did go to the moon initially, and when I talk about this, I just look at the evidence people present on why we didn't go, and then evidence that shows that we definitely went. And I kind of just stay in the middle and let other people decide if we actually went or not. But we're going to go on the assumption that we did go initially, and we had the I want to say they were the Gemini missions that orbited the moon, right? I think they were Gemini. Were they Gemini?
Gemini.
Yeah, Mercury was the first one.
I think Gemini orbited the Earth.
I think Mercury was the one that did orbited the Earth. Gemini, I believe, orbited the moon, and then Apollo landed on the moon. Maybe I have that wrong. However,
Gemini spacecraft never orbited the moon.
Okay, so it must be Mercury. One of them, we orbited the moon. And there were stories that were derived from this saying when we went there, and even with the Apollo landings, obviously there were astronauts that had said they saw things along the way. And there were actually, and I've done a show on this as well, more astronauts than not actually talked about seeing weird things out there. We kind of went over a list of things during the different missions that they said they saw. Now, this goes to not the dark side of the moon, but the back side of the moon, because it's not always dark, as my guy Mateo would say. And the things that we're seeing on the backside, right? So we're to, and I said this as before they even reached the moon, the Artemis 2 mission, that they're going to be able to validate if they see anything on the backside of the moon. And we came to the conclusion that potentially, even if they did see anything on the way there, or even if they saw anything weird on the backside of the moon, that during the press conference they probably wouldn't say anything, because historically that's how it went. Even people who come out later and talked about things they had saw while out there, they didn't say in the press conference. It usually took some years for that to come out. And with these astronauts being in this current day totally disconnected from astronauts that previously went on these missions over 50 years ago, would they be more open in this new landscape to talking about if they saw something? Because they had their phones present, I believe. I think they had their iPhones on the mission. And would they be open to showing or even talking about weird things that they saw? And I was under the impression that I don't think that they would be allowed to do that, as you just stated. If there's something weird, they're going to shut the cameras off, probably under NDA, to where they couldn't talk about anything weird they may have seen. But I think what will happen, as you pointed out, it was live streamed, which was awesome. But then Artemis 3, I guess, is the one where they will land. And we get to validate other parts of the story. Is there a rover there? Is there a lander there? These things should all still be there. So I think Artemis 3 will potentially put the whole moon situation to bed, where we can stop talking about that and say, yeah, look, here's the lander, here's the rover. Do you think that at some point in time they're going to come out, these astronauts, and say, hey, we saw something weird out there? Do you think the likelihood that they did see something weird is high or low, being that they were out in space for so long and so far away from the Earth? We know these things are out there because we have them on video, numerous space missions, and some of the video and audio that was released in this UFO dump. Do you think the likelihood was high or low that they saw something? And if they did, how do you think that plays out?
So I would say that it's a strong probability that they saw something. I would say that them voluntarily saying they saw something and what they saw is probably a low probability of occurring. Think about this. We got the tapes, right? We're going to play one in a little bit from the Gemini missions. We've got transcripts from the Apollo missions that talk about it. When did we get those? Right? We got those 60 or, between 50 and 60 years after they occurred. I have no doubt that the astronauts, as soon as they were back on solid Earth, they probably had a great meal, and then they had a mission debrief. And that mission debrief probably included various things that they saw, just like the Apollo and Gemini missions did. But it will take somebody probably filing a FOIA to get those mission debrief transcripts in order for us to know if there's actually anything in them that would be telling or similar to what's in the stuff from the Apollo program. I would be interested. I'm sure that after every shuttle mission, there's a mission debrief. Let's get those. There is 50 years of space travel between, you know, the last Apollo mission and what we just did with Artemis. Let's get all those transcripts. Let's go through all that stuff. You know, it's probably safe to say that if there's stuff in transcripts from the Apollo program and the Gemini program, there's probably stuff in transcripts from others as well. So yeah, all the space shuttle missions, all the missions, you know, back and forth to the International Space Station, so on and so forth. How many of those transcripts talk about anomalous, you know, experiences or sightings? But yeah, I don't think we'll ever see an Artemis astronaut or any astronaut, regardless, go on, you know, Jimmy Kimmel and talk about the UFOs they saw in space. I don't think that'll ever happen. We'll have to dig into what is there and recorded as a part of the mission to see what may be there to support what the things that we are interested in.
I will say this, and that's I can agree with that as well. There was, I'm trying to recall the scientist's name. There's definitely a scientist. I want to say it was Dr. Eric Davis. I watched a lot of stuff lately, but there's a scientist and there's a group that got the approval to put their cameras on the Artemis mission. And so there are cameras that are separate from NASA's own cameras. And I know the interviewer asked the scientist if they would be open to sharing any of the footage that they had taken. And they ended up stating that they would, although not really optimistic about that, but they did. There was a separate group of cameras that were on the Artemis mission that had nothing to do with NASA. And there would be the possibility to maybe get something from that. I would hope. Hopefully that person who said this is true and going to be transparent. But the thing for me is, and you know, I wonder if someone, and maybe they did, and I didn't watch the actual press conference to know if anyone asked if they saw something while out there. And I would just wonder what the answer was. I need to go back and take a look. I think I will and maybe address it later. But I was already looking at the plausibility of it all and stating that, okay, all these shuttle missions, all this space station video that shows anomalous things is very likely that they would have seen something while they were out there, like almost 100% guaranteed. And then once they got back, would they be at least willing to admit that they saw something weird? Because that would show if NASA was turning a page on, you know, the level of transparency that they're willing to have with the public, you know, with this new mission to the moon, which would be the next biggest thing that humanity has done in a long time. And, you know, so I guess potentially we're back to the same old thing. And we talked about that it could be this new way, or it could be NASA doing the same thing they've always done. With that being said, I know a lot of people out there may have seen this or actually heard this. This is going to be audio and video, if you're here on YouTube, of the Apollo mission, where they actually see something and you hear them talking back and forth to mission control. So I want to make sure we get that audio on here for our audio people out there, and there'll be some video for the people who are here for the video piece of this. So let's take a look. We'll talk about it once we get back here.
Like you recall, at the start of the second revolution, we had a reference to several objects that the crew spotted. This was in the area of Antigua. Due to a mechanical breakdown, we did not have that portion of the tape available for you. This was a line breakdown between Building 30 and our news center in Building 6. Since then, we have dubbed a tape off the master tape here in the control center, and we are now prepared to play it for you. It contains references to sighting not only some particles, but as well as an unidentified object, plus the booster. Here's that tape. We'll play it for you now.
Gemini 7 here, Houston, out of your 8.
Loud and clear. 7, go ahead.
Bogey at 10 o'clock high.
This is Houston. Say again, 7.
I said we have a bogey at 10 o'clock high.
Roger. Gemini 7, is that the booster or is that an actual sighting?
What?
Say again, 7.
Okay, we have several, looks like debris up there, actual sighting.
You have any more information, estimated distance or size?
But we also have the booster in sight.
Understand you also have the booster in sight, Roger.
And we have very, very many, looks like hundreds of little particles going by from the left out about 3 to 4 miles.
Understand you have many small particles going by on the left. At what distance?
4 miles. Large, looks like perhaps a vehicle that's disintegrated.
Roger, understand they're about 3 to 4 miles away.
They're past now, they're going to polar orbit.
Roger, and understand they were about 3 to 4 miles away.
From the pier line, or further.
Roger. Gemini 7, Houston, were these particles in addition to the booster and the bogey at 10 o'clock high? Roger.
7, this is, Houston, this is 7.
Go ahead.
I have the booster on my side as a brilliant body of the sun against a black background and with billions of particles around it.
Roger, what direction is it from you?
It's about at my 2 o'clock position.
Does that mean it's ahead of you?
It's affirmative. Ahead of us, 2 o'clock, slowly tumbling.
Roger.
I believe there's a blank in the audio here for about 30, 45 seconds here.
Fox 91. Oh, Fox 1. 91, say again.
All right, so that's essentially the audio from, that was Gemini 7, where astronauts Frank Borman and Jim Lovell spotted a bogey separate from their booster along with glowing oval objects and particle swarms. And here it is, this comes out, they release this information all this time later. And I'm just thinking about the live stream element that you were talking about with Artemis 2. Yeah. Did you see NASA having that actual level of transparency, knowing that there's things out there, knowing that Artemis 2 could potentially and likely see something along this way? Knowing that, I have an issue with it, but and maybe it's something we could figure out down the line, but that they would essentially live stream this event completely and fully for the world to see, knowing that there potentially could be something that would pop up. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I mean, I watched the Artemis 2 live stream, a lot of it, and most of it, the camera was pointed at the capsule. You don't really see, I mean, like there is, blackness of space around the edges of the capsule, but because the lighting, they're always, solar side picking up, solar irradiation for the panels and such, the camera was almost always pointed at the capsule. So I think, it's not an issue of live streaming if you're never looking at a place where you could potentially see something. Yeah. There was one time that I was watching and I was seeing these weird kind of particles flying at the camera. And I watched like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe there's something there. And then it was during the time where they were doing a dump of liquid waste.
Urine. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So they were basically exiting the craft, immediately freezing and crystallizing, and then, flowing, if you will, out of the capsule. They created this kind of sparkling effect as they flew past the camera. So, again, like we talked about at the beginning of the show when I kind of gave my introduction, I'm not opposed to being wrong, right? I thought maybe it was something, but turns out it was crystallized urine that I was, getting excited about. I think that what will be interesting is when they actually get and they put something down on the surface of the moon, and likely they will do some sort of a, live stream. Now, live in that context is a little misleading because it takes like a few minutes from the signal to travel from the moon to the earth. So, we're always getting it on a delay anyway. Plus there's probably some delay built in. So if somebody messes up and says, drops an F-bomb on the moon, that doesn't get, broadcast out for the world to hear. So I think that, live stream, I'd say probably, 15, 20 minute, delay, but still, sometimes NASA is really good about being Johnny on the spot, and they see something anomalous comes across the ISS camera feed, and they cut it off. But sometimes they miss it, and it plays it's in frame for a little while before they realize what's going on, and then they kill the feed. So I think it's possible for that to happen if they do, in fact, show some sort of a stream from the moon where you might see something, but you're going to have to either watch nonstop, constantly have it open with your eyes on the screen, or you're going to have to record and then go back and watch, 24-hour, stream of the moon while the next 24-hour period of time is recording to see if they happen to catch anything. I think there's more. You talked about the other cameras that were on the Artemis 2. I'd not heard that, but maybe. I think though they probably had to sign an NDA to put their cameras on the capsule, so we probably won't see anything from that either. For me, what has been more insightful has been to watch the cameras that are on the SpaceX launches and that are on the Blue Horizon launches, because sometimes they do catch things and they're not at any, requirement to filter that information out. Plus, the Blue Horizon ones, you can also get all the people that are in the capsule, they're filming with their cell phones and they're posting that up online. So that oftentimes will include, key information and detail.
Awesome stuff. As we get ready to go ahead and get into our final break of here tonight, right on the re-inauguration show, the After Hours Radio Show, Social Talk Radio, with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Josh Rutledge in the building. We'll be right back after the break. All good to go. And we'll finish up that topic. And I think there's another thing I wanted to get with you on. Your thoughts on this other thing that's coming up here really, really soon. The Disclosure Day movie.
Yep.
Can't wait for that, man. And that's why I feel like I'm just wondering, and I will say this for the show, but I'm just wondering what's in it and what it's going to mean to the conversation so far. So, yeah. Appreciate you guys coming on in, hanging out. See you guys out there. Kitty Catawat, Christine, Roger Murray. I don't know if you dropped a jewel on us here tonight, but yeah, you did. Jose, you said Soviet astronauts also saw a UFO. Yeah, definitely. Anybody that goes up there, I think, is going to see a UFO. So, with that being said, I think you can know that there has to, that you're, I'd say probably 99.9% going to see something when you go out there. And so to go out there and come back and say you didn't see anything, I think we could pretty much probably say that that's not true. And then, yeah, then you can jump down a rabbit hole from there. But yeah, with the live stream stuff, I know NASA had to have something built in for a moment like that because they know they had many moments like that every time they go up there. So good stuff, Roger Murray. Appreciate you dropping a line in the chat for us here. Also, Shotgun Orta, appreciate you coming on in. Gentlemen and I orbited the Earth, Apollo orbited the moon, and then landed. Okay. And that could be what, yeah. So the early Apollo missions prior to 11. Right. Okay, appreciate that, Shotgun Orta. Appreciate you getting us on track with that. And let me see. Let's see here. Roger Murray. Show your dogs on your show. I love dogs. And I might do that. I got my little baby, my little ladybug, the one I tell you guys about, the one who I watched in my hands come back to life, literally, in my hands over a course of time. And now she just will not allow me to have peace. She's in my face every time, I see her. She just will not let me rest. And it comes across as if she's just always, being grateful and showing me, the love of not just going outside and putting her in a hole, which I was very close to doing because I'd already buried 3 dogs. We had a parvo get into a batch of our puppies, and a few of them passed, and I had to go bury like 3. And she had it, and she was just like so small, teacup chihuahua, just really baby small. And I just knew she wasn't going to make it. And they woke me up, said she didn't make it. They wrapped her up in a blanket or a sheet from head to toe. And I'm like, I'm mad. I go over there and I grab her because I'm just about to go dig this hole and put her in it. And when I go grab her, she just jumps and shows me that she's alive. And then from that moment forward, I get her some, electrolytes and all these other things. I'm rubbing her, talking to her, and she's limp and lifeless, eyes sunken. And over the course of 4 hours, every 30 minutes or so, something would come back, opened her eyes, wiggled her ear. The fluid was going in her mouth and it would sit there. She wasn't drinking it. Her natural responses kicked in, and then she started drinking it. And I'm watching all this come back to where she was alert and aware and looking around and looking at the other dogs. And for me, it was just the moment that showed me that healing energy is a real thing, guys. It's definitely something that's real. And I think I will show her. My girl always tells me I should show her on the show, and I definitely think I will. Yeah, Christine, she was alive. They came and told me that she was not. They had done things. They'd tried to get her to respond and all these things. Then they came to me and was like, yeah, she's gone. And literally, had she not jumped, she would be in a hole in my backyard if she did not respond or react. And it's crazy. And I think she shows me consistently and constantly like thanks me for doing what I did. That's how it comes across to me. Yeah, I would say NDE. Definitely NDE. If you leave it up to my girl and my daughter, they say she was gone. If you leave it up to them, they said she was just totally gone. And for whatever reason, when I grabbed her, she just jumped. And that's the only thing she did. She didn't do anything else reactive for the course of a few hours after that. It was amazing. It was amazing. As we get ready to come back here in about 5 seconds here, guys. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Actually used to be Spaced Out Radio, social talk radio at this point, right here on the Social Dig with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Getting into some good stuff here with Josh Rutledge, who is the chief investigator with MUFON, Arizona. Definitely glad to have him in here because, as someone said out there in the audience, it's always a great conversation with Rob and Josh, and I totally agree. As we get back into it, before the break, we were talking about the Artemis 2 in the transparency or lack of transparency. I mean, on the face of it, as Josh stated, they live streamed it, but then at the same time, the camera was pointed at the capsule and wasn't actually pointed out into space, which I think was for an obvious reason. I mean, yeah, you want to see the capsule, but I would have preferred to see space in just the wonderful things that could potentially just happen out there randomly as they're going through space. But, and I feel like based on the previous space shuttle missions, and I'll just read off a few to you, that had some sort of activity. We had Mercury Atlas 7 in 1962, Mercury Atlas 8, 1962, Mercury Atlas 9, 1963, Gemini 4, 1965, Gemini 5, August 65, Gemini 7, December 65, Gemini 10, July 1966, Gemini 11, September 1966, Gemini 12, November 1966. Then we had Apollo 8, December 1968, Apollo 10, May of 1969, Apollo 11, July of 1969, Apollo 12, November 1969, Apollo 14, January 1971, and then the final Apollo mission, at least that we understand, which was Apollo 17, December 1972. And, with the Artemis astronauts, I know it was an awesome, amazing trip for them, but I would like to get one of them, off the record somewhere and just really ask them what it was they saw. Because anytime we see something here on Earth, we have that experience of seeing a first anomalous object. It's always life-changing for us, and we're sitting right here on the ground. So for them, it would have to have been probably a scary situation being so far from the Earth. As you see in some of the images, the Earth seemed kind of so far away, and to just kind of be out there and feel like you are vulnerable to anything that could take place. And then the moment they did see something weird and how they must have felt in the conversation they had, I would love to know that. I would love to know how that felt, what that sounded like. And as Josh said, we may not get any of that for 50 years from now, or sometime way down the road when that story actually comes out or the information gets FOIA'd. But with that being said, we kind of want to move on as we have Josh here for a little bit more. We want to get into the Disclosure Day movie because, once again, as I talked about, this is the UFO story so far, and there's disclosure incoming. And there's a lot of things that happened this year, which we kind of went over some of them. The latest thing is the UFO data dump, where they showed some anomalous objects on video. And this little star, 8-pointed star thing, what did you make of that? Real quick before we talk about the movie. Did you see that video? And were there any, if you weigh that video upon historical data or videos, are there things that you point to that kind of line up with other sightings or videos?
So, that video is really interesting because if you look closely, to the, kind of right and behind the the pointed star, you see what looks to be some sort of a like a smoke trail that is following the star. So I like part of me thinks that it's either like we're looking at the tail end of a rocket, or it's an aerial flare that is being filmed with thermal. Just because people in the military or the government receive a lot of training doesn't mean they might not also misidentify things just like the rest of us do. So like for me, and there's even like this weird thing where it looks like a shaped rectangle that's off in the distance. When I first saw it, I thought it might be lens flare, because the object the two objects are parallel to one another through the center of the frame when you see it. Somebody else pointed out that it could be a parachute, of a actual aerial flare. I don't know. To me, that video brings more questions of prosaic explanation than any of the other ones that were posted. Even though all the other ones are like, dots in the sky, it's still there. I have more questions about the possibility of that item being just filming, fire basically on a thermal camera, and is it somehow fractured, the light's fractured, or what's the word I'm looking for, passing through a prism or something to give it that kind of 8-pointed star shape.
And and that's great. And I want to, for those who, I have 2 video clips. I want to make sure I'm playing the right one. I want to show you guys, for those out there who are just listening to audio, if you haven't seen this video yet, you can come over to the YouTube side and check this out. But there was a video released of an object that seemed really symmetrical, had 8 points to it. And I'll tell you, I asked someone what they thought it was, and very interesting. You'll hear the answer here in a moment. But let me see if I can at least play a moment of this. Let me bring it up here. I think this is it. If not, I will. I think it's the other video. Is it that, or it could be this one here? Let me see. Anyway, very interesting. And my UFO sighting, if anybody has seen my UFO sighting, this object right here looks a lot like what I filmed. And imagine filming 47 of these things all together in a formation. That's what my UFO video shows. Something white and anomalous like this, like a little ball in the daytime, metallic ball, flying with 46 other objects in unison. And there's definitely a clip that looks exactly like the object I filmed, and I want to make sure that I'm able to show that. Let me see if I can scrub through this video. I don't think I can. Nope, so I got to let it play. But I'll let this play for a minute, but I think it's the other video that shows the star-shaped thing. Okay, yeah, this is not the one. All right, let me try to bring up this other one here. One of these shows the 8-sided object, and I want to make sure that we look at that one here, because I'm going to show you something that might change your mind, or at least give you a different view on what it is that you think you're seeing. And once again, for the audio people out there, we're taking a look at a UFO video released by the government here in the first data dump, which at this point is just focusing on one small item flying through the sky, a little white object, and it's going through all the sensors, the camera sensors. This seems to be just a regular video of it flying across the sky, and I think it'll shift over to the 8-sided object here in just a moment. But then again, this also lets you know how good these cameras are that are tracking these things. That's the one thing I thought about as it shows a fishing boat on the water here, and the object passing through. With a lot of things blanked out or redacted on the screen as well. That thing shoots right across the camera. And yeah, I'm going to refer to this video when I show my UFO video. Maybe we'll do that on the Friday night show this coming week, next week. So make sure you guys come and tune into that, the Friday night live call-in show, as well as the definitive UFO news show. Once again, a white single object moving across the screen, showing anomalous behavior, right angle turns, also leaving a trail if you are going off of this. I think in a lot of it, if you can notice the noise in the video, there's noise all over the video, digital noise and visual noise. And I think that kind of affects how the object is perceived. And we'll touch on that as well. But this, if anyone's seen my UFO video, you'll see a lot of similarities in this object and the objects I filmed. Which, once again, we're in a group of 47 objects, which is crazy because that's a formation. And why would they be in such a large group, right? That's one of the things to be concerned and consider as we're looking at this here. Once again, for our audio people out there, it's just a white anomalous dot moving around the sky. You can't really tell if it's day or night. But this is obviously not something that humans have made. And I think that's at least what can be taken away from this video, if anything else. Hopefully it moves on to the star-shaped object. See that thing whip across that? Definitely an oak. Is this it? Let's see. Yeah, I think this is the star shape. Yeah, this is the 8-sided object on the screen now. And as it comes into focus here, it shows pretty big. If you've seen this, it looks like what they cross inside of it. And you could look at it and say, oh, okay, that's the bottom of a quadcopter. Someone will probably say that, because it's symmetrical. There is a trail that is following behind it, which is pretty peculiar. As Josh stated, that could be smoke, potentially, if you're looking at it one way. But here's where it gets crazy. Here's where it gets weird. So you see what it's doing. You see the movements that it's making. Okay, let me come back here for you guys. So you saw how weird that was. The 8-sided object moving with a trail behind it. If you've watched this show enough, then you know that I've shown you a video pretty similar to that. And here's the video right here. We have a side house connected to our house. It's like a whole totally separate unit. And we have a camera in there. And at the time this video was taken, I was doing a show. I was actually live on the show. And my girl came in during a break and said, you need to see this. And she pulled up the Ring camera video and said, this is happening right now. And one of the videos that she showed me is this one I'm about to show you right now, which depicts a lot of what you're about to see here. It is a picture of an orb that was triggered by our Ring camera in our side house. And as you watch it move, it has a trail behind it, very similar to the object that they showed in the UFO release video. So for me, this validates the conversation on if what we were looking at is anomalous or not. This object, as it was live and moving around the side room here, I don't know if as it's moving around the side room, okay, maybe that one's done. So as that was moving, get that off the screen. Okay, as that was moving around the side room here, it triggered our camera probably 4 or 5 times with different videos. So I want to show you one. That one was kind of far out. Let me let you see what's closer. And for the audio audience, we just showed a video inside of a room taken by a ring camera with a smoke circle shaped object that was leaving a trail as it moved across the camera. So I'm going to show you this, another file that I have here, which is going to show you the same behavior. And it is exactly what you see in a lot of other, not just orb sightings, but just anomalous sightings, period, where you get this trail. And I think this one's a little bit longer here.
Yeah. So the only thing I'll say is you have to be careful sometimes when interpreting things as having a tail, because it could, or a trail, because it can also be a low frame rate. And so it basically is taking less shots per, second or whatever. And so it gives the appearance of it having dimensionality when it may not. I've seen this with my all sky camera. I'll an airplane will fly over and I'm taking a shot every 2 seconds and it'll look like this big, long, stretched out, thing of light. But when you zoom into it, you can actually determine the wings and things like that. And so you know that it's just an airplane that was taking, 2-second shots over the course of it flying through the frame of the camera. So you just got to be, make sure your frame rates and things like that are actually usually on IR cameras, frame rates are lower. Like, the frames per second are lower on the IR side of the camera. And so that will oftentimes give you the indication that something has a trail or a tail when it's just a matter of it's moving faster than the camera is taking pictures.
Okay, so here's the crazy part. In the video, because it's happening live, my girl walks through that front door while this thing is moving around the room, and she cannot locate it at all. Although in the video, it's still moving around the room and being tracked by the camera. She goes in and she cannot visually see this at all with her eyes. So this is an object that is not able to be seen by the eye and is triggering a camera and also moving around a room, leaving a trail. So, because, first thing you would think maybe a bug or something like that, leaving a trail because of the frame rate. Not at all. Not a physical, it wasn't a physical thing. It was something that was there that triggered the camera, but could not be visually picked up by the human eye. And if the video were able to play, you would see it come close to the camera. You'll see her walk in, turn on the lights, and you'll still see it moving around. And she's looking around for this thing, and she cannot locate it at all. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not an orb. I'm just saying, like, in general, sometimes you got to be careful. It's part of like the investigation stuff. I investigate all of my things as if they have a prosaic explanation, even the stuff that happens to me personally. You should. And that's why I'm glad she went in there. I'm glad she went in there because, now we have to investigate. Oh, something weird. Now let's go see if we can catch what it is in real time. Let's go see if we can explain it and kind of take that off the list. But once she went in there and it was not visible to her eye, and you can clearly see it still moving around the room and almost intelligently in the same fashion as that 8-sided object was moving, the same kind of little stop breaks and moves, and it was doing the exact same thing. There are things, what I don't know how to explain it, but you can go online for anyone out there, look up orbs, ring camera and orbs, and you'll see a long list of videos where people have caught these. And one other weird thing about this is what I'll say, not with Mines, because Mines does have audio, but we didn't use the audio on it. When I researched this after the show, and I'm just trying to find other cases and just trying to explain it away, going through those processes you talk about, Josh, and I came across a video where there was a dog who walked right up to the ring camera right in front of it. This orb, same one like that, went right across the camera, and the dog turned his head in the same direction. And then I saw another one where someone had a camera in their garage, and you can see their cars there, and you can see this orb floating around,
and the person said something. They said, "Hey," through the camera's speaker, and the orb thing reacted to sound. It kind of stopped and kind of shuddered for a second and then kept moving when the person gave a vocal command. So I was like, okay, these things can be seen by dogs. They couldn't be seen by the human eye, as was evident with my girl going in there. They can be seen by dogs because the dog turned his head as the thing passed his face. They react to sound for whatever reason. And I was under the assumption at that point, with so many videos out there, that these type of objects are just not visible to us, but they're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. So with that being said, Josh, we're doing these 2-hour shows, and I might start doing 3 if it seems like this isn't enough time, but 2-hour show is kind of where we're going to wrap this one up. Do you have anything you want to leave the audience with, and then maybe even where they can find you?
Sure. Just from a simple MUFON perspective, if you've had a sighting and you'd like somebody to investigate it, not necessarily to tell you necessarily what it is, but to at least maybe help rule out the things that it could be, submit your sighting to MUFON.com. Each one gets investigated. If you've had a abduction experience or, contact, you can submit those to MUFON too. And like I said at the top of the show, I'm a part of the ERT, which is the Experience and Resource Team with MUFON, and we can help give you, resources to, talk to people who are sensitive to that situation and help you find answers. As far as me personally, you can go to my website, ourmysticjourneys.com. That's OUR mysticjourneys.com. I do, spiritual slash just kind of general, work with folks to help them work through the things that are going on in their life. I do tarot readings, dowsing, channeling, all of that kind of stuff, as well as just kind of general mentorship. So again, ourmysticjourneys.com. And then on all the socials on YouTube, you can find me at The UFO Wizard on YouTube.
Awesome stuff, Josh. Thanks for coming in, man. Being the first guest on the re-inaugural show here on the After Hours radio show. We're going to be doing this again soon. I'll talk to you shortly, man. Take care.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Josh. Later. All right, guys. That was Josh Rutledge, the awesome Josh Rutledge, right here on the After Hours radio show, Social Talk Radio, home of the Social Dig, home of truth and transparency. As we move forward, more episodes to come. We have Sir Brian Bowden coming in soon. We have Preston Dennett book to come in. We have the Reverend Michael J. Carter. We have a lot of people, and anybody that you want to see on this show, make sure that you go ahead and leave me a message in this video. Also a comment and a like, if you wouldn't mind, as we get ready to get out of here the way that we came up in here. So with that being said, I want to thank Josh, obviously, for being the cool guy that he is. And as we wrap things up and put a bow on another awesome show, special thanks to our team. Extra special thanks goes out to you, the listener. Yes, you. Thank you for taking your time and tuning your frequency to Social Talk Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We continue to push for truth and transparency on behalf of humanity and keep having conversations that move the needle. It has been a pleasure serving you once again as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the new, rebooted After Hours radio show. Into my social family, this is not a goodbye nor a farewell, but you can best believe we'll be right back here doing the same thing, same time, same place. See you next time. Much love to all. Take care. crystal clear. Want to thank everybody for coming on in and hanging out on this first show. We will be getting back some really good stuff here. We also have the UFO, the definitive UFO news show, which this week we'll be doing on a Tuesday. Normally we do it Wednesday. So we have the cattle show. I'll just say cattle show that we'll be doing this Tuesday. And the following show will be pushed out to the following Wednesday. Have my mother coming into town. As you know, we've been dealing with some family stuff. So definitely some important time that I'm going to need to spend with her. And then I'm going to be right back in the saddle getting this stuff going on. So all the other shows are set to go off when they do. So Sir Brian Bowden will be here next week. If it seems like this 2-hour limit is not enough to get this in, then I'll make some adjustments and we'll kind of move accordingly. So with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and end this stream just like we came in. We want retribution. That's how we shut this thing down each and every time. Talk to you next time. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And I will see you.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.